regarding culture and all that, you can look at it, is it something that is in bad taste? Is it something that I want done to me? For example, I know there was the latest, which was the controversy on the star. I hope the editors are not here, on the picture. And there was a lot of talk about it, they shouldn't have done this, and there was all that back and forth. But maybe they had their means to do it, which is get response from the government, get people to respond to the talent clashes. So that's what I think. When you get into journalism, those are things that you will deal with. Sometimes it will come from the editor, and it might put you in a place where you either have to compromise and do it and save your job, or disregard it and get fired, but and hopefully get another job. As far as we've come, I'd say we've come a long way. If the recent elections are anything to go by, then the journey ahead is a good one. The media taking a front line in terms of curbing ethnic lines and tribal cookings in terms of hate speech and political, we know how it gets.
It's very clear that as much as they promoted peace through their TV messages, they forgot the social media.
I think we patted ourselves on the back and were like, oh, good job, and forgot about social media, which is very quickly becoming a tool, a tool of communication. So I'd say that is an area that hasn't been tackled, but it's not just the media as well, it's also the NCIC's responsibility and the government's responsibility. I think all stakeholders in that area forgot about that.
But then the question is, do they have control?
We all find ourselves in some virtual community. One
befriending their friends, because in Kiswahili we say wanaongea mbaya. Otherwise, the non-youth or the adults have been engaging in a lot of hate speech in public places, in bars, and online itself. But right now, it has transpired that young people have started aligning themselves to what Mr. Katiamba called political parties. And that way now, the Kenyan society has realized that we are going to lose the youth as well. So that's why the panic is all about. If you've been reading newspapers before the elections, there have been a lot of hate speech in commentaries. There were too many experts talking about the elections. There are too many analysts. Some of them are on TV. No one seemed to notice them. But now when young people started talking hate speech, we are alarmed, because these are the people we thought are detribalized. These are the people who think the politicians are behaving badly. So that's where it comes to where the panic has started from. I went to Facebook in 2004, but I'm quite a very shy Facebooker. And so that's why I'm not quite visible. Meaning that I really don't understand. What I know is that very many people are in Facebook and they don't understand the terrain. They don't understand that they are in a minefield. Now there are people called Musando Kibunjia. He's talking badly about people socializing. The Minister of Information and Communication is really scaring the journalists out of their skins. And people are starting to reevaluate themselves that, is this a good place we are in? In media ethics, people say a lot of things about what is ethical and what's not ethical, what's legal and what's not legal. But what generally guides our ethics, whether it's media ethics or social ethics, is the classical theories. There is one of the classical theories that says that do unto others how you will have them do unto you.
When I was in the field reporting, I would always remember one thing that Jokade would tell us about the brown envelopes, yeah? And I was always like, okay, I'm so curious. I want to be given a brown envelope, I want to see how they look like, what it contains, okay, how much it contains. I think I would really want to be honest about this topic, because it's always the big elephant in newsrooms. No one wants to discuss it, but it happens. When we talk about biased reporting in Kenya, money is involved. We all know that. And so journalists would line up and get up like 1,000, 2,000, and I would always be like, that's all? So when you sort of like go up the ladder in the industry, you become a force to reckon with. And I started to learn about analysis, and I started to employ what my lecturers had taught me in the field. And then one time, after I've already done enough analysis and everyone is like, you know what, if I want to pass an agenda, if you want to pass an agenda as a politician, you go through the senior reporters. Senior reporter, you know, you can go and interview William Ruto, you can go and interview Uhuru Kenyatta, and you have a lot of clout. And so when I got to that point, I was invited for like a get-together where politicians, the big dogs were there. And because they want to pass an agenda, it was about the time everyone was forming alliances. So you don't know which alliances, where there was no CORD, there was no Jubilee, there was G7. And so they want to like pass that agenda through the media to sort of test the waters, find out what Kenyans think about, you know, if I team up with Mudavadi, if I team up with Raila, what do Kenyans think? And that's where the brown envelopes were, that's where they were. And they weren't really brown envelopes because it's a small slip and it has a lot in it and it can change your life. And the decision that I made was based on what I had observed in the newsrooms. Most of my seniors in the newsroom were there during the 2007 election. And so I noticed that a majority of them had ghosts haunting them because I would always be told that I would get stories from other people that, you know, the newsroom was so divided that you could see a clear cut between ODM and PNU. When the results were announced, because of how people had taken interest and because of how people had, you know, everyone has a tribe, so you're protecting your people's interests. People cried when their teams lost. The other ones, they celebrated, but they were mocking the other team, and it's exactly what was happening in the country. So exactly what was happening in Kibera, what was happening in Kisumu, what was happening in Rift Valley was happening in our newsrooms, but indirectly. It was the learned way of fighting, that you won't kill each other, but then really, it's like the same thing.
There is so much sensibility that needs to be put into place when you're going to cover conflict. And the issues on ethics that I could find are, the first one is truth versus sensibility. The question is just how much do you tell your audience when you're covering conflict? For example, who is killing who is fighting who, how are they fighting? What do you need to tell your audience so that you do not incite them to go out and fight? What do you leave out? Those are the things that you need to look at when you're going to cover conflict. The gender question in the media, I am going to add it to the covering of conflicts, and I'm going to tell you that covering conflict as a woman is the hardest thing that you have to do. So I'm going to say that you have body parts that move as a woman. So when you are running, you run with those body parts, and it's not very easy. Another thing is that men are cowards. When the gunshots go up, they run, and they leave you there with your camera. So you have to carry your camera on your back and you run after them with your body parts moving. It's not easy. And then the other thing is you have to look at who to interview. During conflict, it's very hard to find someone who will say, I am here, come and interview me. Remember, these are people who are living in tension. These are people who do not want to be seen on camera. But then also as journalists, we have the mandate to go out and say, this is what I was told by my source. You just can't say someone told me. We are moving from a source who refused to be named kind of journalism, because it was discovered that that is where journalists used to sit behind their computers and then compose stories that do not make sense and then say someone who refused to be named. So you have to look for a source to talk to, which is not very easy when it comes to doing conflict, because also you might be risking the life of this person that you're going to talk to. The other interesting thing is the humanitarian versus journalism thing that comes about when you're covering conflict, that you have to draw the line and say, I am a journalist, but also you are looking at people who are facing very difficult situations. Did I tell you that I covered Tana Delta, I covered Baragoi, I covered Somalia. I covered when their troop was coming back from Kenya, or from Somalia. So you are covering people who've gone through a lot of stuff. You are going to Baragoi and you're seeing people who've not eaten for close to 3 days. So you're tested as a journalist. Do you carry these people in your car and take them to a camp? Do you help them? Do you leave them there? Do you tell their story? That is a very tricky thing that you have to work with.